So the questions ask you to write in some detail. So spend some time on it and know that you can submit to more than one center if you wish. Which leads to the third commandment. Don't apply to just one center. Please don't do that. This is really a good occasion not to put all your eggs into one basket because, again, 50 to 60 applications, 5 or 6 people get invited to join a program, so the odds are a little bit against you, even at the place you think is the perfect match for you. So please look around, apply at 2 or 3. You may find that that the center that you think is a perfect match, you might get an interview, go there and decide, oh, I'm not so sure this is the best place. And then if you've only put your application in at one place, then you're kind of scrambling. It's a two-way street. That's number 4. People often think that a CPE interview is the supervisor is going to ask me a bunch of questions to find out about me. Well, yes, that's true. I mean, my task when I'm interviewing is to figure out if you would be a good student for the program, if you'd be somebody that I feel like I could work with. I'll talk a little bit about the 4 things I look for in a little bit. But it's also your chance to figure out if I would be a good person for you to work with. If you walk out of that interview and you think, God, what a jerk. Okay, that's good information. You shouldn't work with me, right? The chemistry isn't there. But if you go to a center, you talk with a supervisor, and you feel like she knows something that I really would like to learn, and I want to work with her. That's also great information. Remember, whether you're doing a summer or a full year, you're investing a lot of time and energy and yourself into this experience, and you don't want to go someplace where you don't feel like there's a good match. So I definitely encourage people to apply to more than one place, because hopefully you'll get to interview at more than one place, and you'll get to experience more than one supervisor and kind of sense what our strengths and our, what our fit is with you. And that's also a good thing at the October event to do, is to go around. Don't just go to the 1 or 2 centers that you think, okay, this is closest to Star King, like Alta Bates Summit would be, or I've heard great things about Stanford, so I'll just go to the Stanford table. Go to several places, because you'll get to chat us up and talk to us about our centers, and you'll get a sense of us at that event too. Now we'll all be, wearing our best suits, so we'll all be trying to impress you, but you folks are savvy. You can kind of see through some of that. So hopefully you'll get a sense of who we are at that event as well. But please definitely apply to more than one center, interview at more than one place, and think of this as a chance for you to search us out and learn more about us. Please don't be afraid to ask a few questions about the center too. Well, what do you think your strengths are, or what do you think you teach well, or what's your theory of supervision? How do you like working with students? Those kind of questions are fine, and a good supervisor won't be offended by it. They will want to talk about how they do their educational work. Commandment number 5, I just explained to your colleagues that I'm biblical, so I think in commandment. So commandment number 5 is to make sure that the center is accredited. Now I say ACPE accredited because that's the organization I belong to. You really want to focus on what kind of accreditation does the center have. Accreditation provides protection. As a student, you have rights. You have rights when you came to Star King and enrolled here, because Star King is accredited. And so if you ever have a grievance with the faculty or with the way the institution is run, then you have a process by which you can air that grievance and have it heard and have due process. Accreditation provides that kind of protection. So please be cautious. If you go to a center that is not accredited, you don't have protection. There were several students from Star King a few years ago who applied for a summer unit at a center that didn't have any kind of accreditation, and about a month before the unit was supposed to start for the summer, the supervisor contacted everybody and said, I can't, or I'm not going to do the summer unit, I'm sorry, and they were just out of luck. Well, an ACPE center can't do that. We can't pull the plug and say, sorry, we're not going to offer the unit, by our standards, we have to make arrangements for you. If we cannot provide you with the unit that you have enrolled in and paid your deposit for, and we have to guarantee that you have some recourse for your training, and that's part of our accreditation. So it's not an impolite question to ask about accreditation. You know, how are you certified by your organization? What kind of accreditation do you hold? That's also a good data gathering kind of question to ask of any center that you're going to. And if you have any questions about whether a center is accredited, you can go to the ACPE website and look, and all of the accredited centers are listed on that website. Commandment 6, how you dress for the interview communicates something about you. Now, I say this because we all live in, Berkeley, East Bay. As students, we're used to dressing a certain way. There's nothing wrong with that at all. However, most CPE programs take place in healthcare settings, which are where professional attire is considered the norm. And the way I'm dressed right now for a man would be pretty normal at most of the centers that offer CPE. So when you go to interview, think about dressing up for the interview, because if you look like somebody who could walk right out of the interview and onto the clinical floor, you make a stronger impression. It's sort of a shallow sentiment. I will admit this right off the bat, but as a person doing an interview, if you come in and you look like a professional, I'm going to think of you as a professional, even though you're a student. I realize it's a really shallow association, but it just happens for me. And it tells me that you think, that you have a thought about how this will work. And that gives me some good information about you and your readiness and your willingness to do the work. So,
like a job interview.
It is kind of like a job interview, yes, definitely. So think of it that way in terms of how you dress for it. Now, you might overdress a little bit for the interview. Don't worry about that. The supervisor will give you some information about, don't worry about the tie, we don't wear ties around here, or, you don't have to wear, a dress, pantsuit, or whatever. You can wear more of this. They'll give you some guidance about that, but if you overdress a little bit, that's fine. A good suit, interview suit would be perfect, or something similar for women. Commandment 7, it is and it isn't a job interview. Okay, now, the way that it is a job interview is that we want to see what kind of person you are to see if you'll be a good fit for our center and our educational program. So you're trying to impress me that you'd be a good student. However, in most job interviews, you talk a lot about what you're successful at, things you've done that are really good. You want to, you're bragging a little bit on yourself, right? You want to tell me as an employer that you'd be a great employee to have, and that you're going to work, and not have a personal life, and so forth. But in CPE, what we're trying to find out is, are you a good student? Are you somebody who's curious about yourself and about how you provide ministry? Do you have a sense of what your weaknesses are, your vulnerabilities, what you have left to learn, the things that you don't do well? And we want to hear about those too, because that gives us a sense of what you would want to work on in CPE. Remember, it's an educational program. And whether or not those are things that CPE is designed to teach you. So don't be surprised if the supervisor asks you to talk about your strengths, but also about your weaknesses. And the more you're able to talk about, well, I know I have a limit here and I want to learn more about this, the more open you will sound to learning. And that's a big thing that supervisors are looking for.